What does it take to have a career in game audio? How do we start? How do we find clients or jobs? And how does this all turn into a sustainable career? Well, today I'm going to be explaining exactly how. I am Sergio. I am the creative director and founder of Double Jump Audio. We are a full audio services company for indie games, originally started in London, where I am from, but now operating under the sunny coastal weather of Barcelona. Here are a few of the projects that we've been working on, most notably Mythwrecked, which we are currently finishing up work for at the moment. I'm also heavily involved with the amazing platform that is Airwiggles. If you're not signed up yet, please check it out. We have the second AirCon online conference happening this June. It's totally free and the lineup of speakers is absolutely epic. I also teach at universities and via my game audio newsletter, helping beginners find their way in a creative career such as video games. I'm also a big advocate of audio middleware, and if you've started learning about Fmod, then I have loads of videos over on my YouTube channel. But today I'm going to be running through all of the fundamentals of how I got to where I am, how I run my business, and how you can do the same. And when I say business, I mean pretty much any creative career. You don't have to have an audio company like I do in order to apply these principles. Even individuals working in indie games or at a studio as a full-time employee should consider themselves a business and apply what I'm about to tell you. And whilst we will be using game audio examples to state my arguments, this all applies to pretty much any creative career path. Cool. So what are we going to be covering today? First of all, how to go from having literally no experience or still studying at your degree, how to get started, essentially. Then how to present yourself, because making sure that we have an online presence today is very important, and how that basically leads to us finding paid opportunities. So where to look, what to look for, and what to actually do when we find something. After that, I can talk a little bit about what I do when I actually work on a project, a few insights which I found very, very useful. And finally, a topic that I'm very passionate about, which is financial safeguarding as a freelancer. It's mainly advice for composers and freelance sound designers, but I still think a lot of it is relevant to anybody, even if you're working full-time. So let's talk about how to get started. My first piece of advice is to appreciate the slow burn of the industry and of this career path, basically. This isn't something that is built overnight or even in 6 months or even a year, right? And I'll explain exactly why. In order to get hired, whether it be for an indie game or as an employee at a studio, there's usually a 3-stage process. Know, like, and trust. People have to first know who we are, of course, and then if they like us enough, and will eventually be trusted with their project and money. Being known means getting yourself involved with the communities, right? Attending events like Nordic Games, joining the conversation, and basically showing up in general to wherever other game audio and game dev professionals meet. Then getting somebody to like and trust you comes next. So how do we do that? Well, being likable, for starters, is all about being genuine. Be polite, be positive, showing people that we can fit in a team, right? That we can get along with others, that they can start picturing us working in their environment. And that's when trust comes in. Trust always comes last. And if you think about the people you now trust in your lives, right now at this moment, who are they and why do you trust them? For instance, in many cases, this would be our friends, our closest friends. People we probably might have met in high school, therefore we saw them every day. We might have hung out after school as well, therefore reinforcing our relationships and connections with them over a period of years. Most importantly about all of this, about the like and trust parts of this, is that we're very emotional creatures as humans, right? We like hanging out with our friends simply because we enjoy each other's company, right? This is also true about getting hired. The simple truth is that as humans, the last choice is made emotionally. We like working with people we like. It's as simple as that. So this trust is built up over time, right? Showing and convincing people, first of all, of our long-term commitment to this career, that we're not going to change our minds next month and decide to do something else. So again, regular engagements in the community, posting online, showing up consistently to events really helps build this reputation. One of the biggest mistakes I see students or beginners make is send this message: do you need a composer? Are you looking for a sound designer? To a developer or a head of studio, hoping to catch them by surprise and get a job instantly. This message doesn't work. And it doesn't work because we're skipping steps. We're assuming that they will trust us, first of all, a complete stranger, without knowing first who we are, right? So you can't like somebody unless you know who they are, for starters. Instead, I suggest it's a much better idea to approach people in a genuine way. So by connecting with them on a real level. How can we do that? Well, a great way to start is simply reaching out and complimenting them on their work. Just say thank you. Thank you, your work is super inspiring. Thank you so much for your contribution to the industry. I now get cold messages quite a lot these days, and all these messages don't work for several reasons. The first one is they're not personalized in any way, right? Some people just say, your studio is really cool. Are you looking to hire anybody? Without mentioning any of the projects that I've been advertising or anything specifically to show me that you've taken like even 2 minutes to find out who I am. The second reason they don't work is they haven't checked to see if we're currently working on a project or if we've actually advertised that we're looking to hire somebody, right? If somebody wants to hire somebody, they'll make it known. The third reason is that if I wanted to hire someone, and this comes back to the like and trust parts of the process, if I wanted to hire somebody, I would look to my inner circle. I would choose one of a dozen people and friends that I have in the industry at the moment over a stranger any day. Simply because I know them, I like them, we're friends, right? And therefore I trust them because I've known them probably for years and I've seen their commitment to their career. Okay? So no more cold messaging after this. All of this to say that we need time to build this up in the right way, and that requires patience. So ensuring we are coming from a position of strength whilst we pursue this dream career is very important. Often what this means is making sure our living situation doesn't rely on any income from video games just yet, right? Just yet. So working a part-time job, for instance, is a great option. I have many friends who still have part-time jobs, completely unrelated to their career in video games, whilst being very successful in their craft in video games, right? I myself still teach, for example. At the start of my career, it meant that I could pay my bills and wait for the right opportunities to come my way and say no to the bad ones. And now I continue to teach because I simply enjoy it, right? And in any case, being in a position to be able to say no and not rush into opportunities that are bad or not suited to us is very, very important. Cool. So a few notes on how to present yourself online. If you're anything like me, then you became a sound designer because you were writing music for a project, and then someone said, hey, do you want to do the sound design as well? And I said, sure, why not? I'll give it a shot. In which case, you might have loads of other audio talents other than sound design, right? Perhaps you're a live musician, or you know how to mix and master, or maybe you field record as well. This is all great. However, we have to be aware that having a long list of skills isn't what clients are attracted to in the first place, all right? So making sure we present ourselves as a specialist is very important. You may have several talents and skills, but making sure that you present yourself as one thing is the key. For audio professionals, usually this means either a composer, a sound designer, or a technical audio engineer. Not all three of them, not two of them, right? Just one. Choose your most skilled, most enjoyed skill and present yourself as that. And this makes you more attractive in the first instance. For instance, let's do the exercise of putting yourself in the shoes of an indie developer or the hiring team at a studio. You need to hire a new sound designer, so you put the job application out there for everyone to see, and you come across two possible applicants. The first one is a sound designer, and that's it. They advertise themselves as a sound designer and nothing more. The second person is a sound designer and a composer. They also offer mixing, mastering, orchestration, and session musician recording on their website. which to you seems like the specialist in this case? Which seems more attractive for the sound design position? Our clients think in exactly this same way. Of course, don't worry, because all your other skills won't be wasted. When you actually get the gig, you get the job, then you can mention all of these other skills that you have, and they might come in very, very useful. It also takes time to figure out how niche your skill and specialty is going to be. So for now, like I said, I'd recommend just picking between either composition, sound design, or technical audio engineering. That's it. Before my game audio career, I used to play in metal bands, and we were taught to think of everyone else as competition. All the other bands were our enemies, and we should treat them that way. So that means not sharing any tips or helpful information, but instead hoarding it all to ourselves in fear of them copying us or overtaking us, right? The result was I spent 4+ years touring in a band, and at the end of it, I have literally no friends to show for it, because we alienated ourselves and gave nothing back to the community. Because we closed ourselves off, we let jealousy fuel our careers, and it didn't help us one bit. Conversely, when entering the game audio community, I was met with the complete opposite. Everyone has been sharing their insights, their information, tips, job opportunities freely, and it's wonderful. We're not in competition with everyone. The best part is that no one is expecting you to come up with anything new or original if you started contributing to the community and engaging in it. We just have to join the conversation. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. We simply have to join in. And the more we put in, the more we will take out of it. It's the reason why there are so many free resources out there, like gameaudiolearning.com, or like Airwiggles, or any number of YouTube channels with great tutorials, Discord servers, Slack groups revolved around game audio. So we need to get in there, right? We need to start contributing and engaging with the community. So the best way to start is sharing something useful. Like I said, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just showing that we are part of the conversation. So share useful blog posts, useful video tutorials, any sort of resource. Then start complimenting and highlighting awesome game music that you enjoy, or awesome sound design. Start asking thoughtful questions about implementation or just game audio in general. And through all of this, in combination with talking to people in the industry, you'll start to find your niche, something that interests you the most to talk about. In my case, I realized that I love talking about Fmod. So I'm now dedicating myself to making as many resources as possible, and thanks to that, people now recognize me for it. And then, of course, making sure that from time to time we share our own work is also important. It shouldn't be the focus of our online posts, because we don't want to come across as spamming people with our work, but it should definitely be enough to make it easy for someone to see who we are and what we do. So make sure your socials are clearly defining who you are. Like within 10 seconds of landing on one of your social profiles, I should know what you do and what you're about. Make sure your website is clear and that there's a video of your work right at the top, so it's impossible for someone not to press play instantly and listen to what you do. Our aim is not for followers, not to gain as many followers as possible, but it's to convince people of our dedication, and there's a big difference. Okay, as I mentioned before, this process does and should take time. Really, we're just finding opportunities that meet our current skill level. So as a student, this might be a game jam or a student project. Then as our skills improve, we can find paid and bigger projects to work on. So what we need to do is basically meet as many people as possible to improve and increase our chances of finding these projects that suit our skill level. Where can we do this? Well, all of the following points applies to freelancing and finding work in-house as a full-time employee. Every morning, I message people I don't know. People I might admire, people I look up to, simply making cool games and stuff that I want to get to know. So I send them a message saying, hey, your stuff is super cool. I love this specific thing about it. And that's it. I make connections like this pretty much every week. And it all starts with this first positive message. What I don't do, like I said, is cold message developers saying, do you need a composer? Do you need a sound designer? Because this does not work. There's nothing personalized about it. It doesn't show the other person any respect, right? We can't ever hope to create a lasting, genuine connection in the know, like, trust funnel that I outlined if we start this poorly, right? Again, picture yourself in a pub asking a random dev this question, like, oh, hi, do you need a composer? Like, straight up, out of nowhere. It'll come across as rude and confrontational, so don't do it online, right? Spread positivity and value first and foremost, and you'll get it in return. Attending events like Nordic Games, putting myself in a position to meet new people and literally showing up is half of the battle, right? Half of the work is just showing up to these events. These events can be a mix of super intimate, like local meetups, amateur-led, or stuff in your local city, or even national conferences like PAX or Gamescom, and international ones as well. It's important to make sure that these events, though, have some sort of a focus on industry professionals, not just for the general public. For instance, GDC is all about the industry and people who work in video games, and EGX, for instance, is more like for the public to come and try demos and new games. Preparing for these events is straightforward, but requires some dedication. Before each event, for instance, I will research who will be there, which studios, games, or individuals I'd most like to meet. And then I simply send them a very direct message saying, hey, I saw that you're attending, so am I. I'd love to chat with you for 5 minutes about this specific topic. This way, when I do meet these people, I already have a small history of interaction with them, and it makes the first meeting kind of go a lot smoother and a lot more comfortable, kind of breaks the ice. I also consider, by the way, online events in this category too. So anything that's like remote or video chat related, like Game Dev London have a great Discord server for that. This is all considered for me in person. Anything where I show my face, I'll put into this category. Cool. So game jams, these are amazing for so many reasons, right? The first reason is that we get to practice what it's like to work on a real project, right? Simulating what it's like in a real job. We get to figure out what our role and our place is in a team as an audio professional. The next reason is that they're super fun and inspiring, right? Which is very important for our careers. We have to feel motivated. And finally, a lot of these game jams, end up being funded projects, right? So there's a good chance that you might find your next paid opportunity from these. To get started, I highly recommend the website indiegamejams.com to get started. There's a game jam literally every week on that website. So now that we've found a project and we've started working on one, this next section is mainly aimed at freelancers working on projects. But if you're planning to work at a studio full-time as well, then understanding how these tips help to value your time is also very helpful. Whilst I won't be discussing how I come to a price, I will say this, quote, just one fixed fee, okay? An all-encompassing price, which is calculated behind the scenes, and there needs to be a professional trust here, right? That you are asking for a fee that reflects your value and experience to the project, and the client needs to understand that. This is a much better scenario for you and for your client. That way, we just have one conversation about money at the start of a project, and that's it. Then you can both concentrate on what's important, which is delivering the best possible work. The reason I don't explain or break down my price is this. I've worked on projects where we priced it per asset and, per sound effect or per track or per minute of music, and it was a nightmare. We both spent so much time thinking, talking, and justifying the price of each weekly deliverable. It was a massive distraction, and it doesn't respect anybody's time. So one price is the best way to go. If there's trust, professional trust between you, this will never be an issue. Now, this might sound obvious, but it's important to, reinforce. Establishing these 2 dates is very, very important. Quite simply, we need to know when we can start and when we're finished. So The start date, that's pretty straightforward, right? When do we start work? Great. The end date should, however, take into consideration the possibility of delays to your production, right? And your client will thank you later for this. A lot of projects get their launch date pushed back. I know it's insane to even think that a game might be delayed at some point. And if this does happen, you can't always pause your audio work and then extend your work, on the project, because in order to have a sustainable career, we need to be lining up projects one after the other. So we don't want any overlap, because that's when things get messy and complicated. So instead, to avoid this situation, we can make sure we add time to the timeline at the start of the project, right? So whenever they think the end date is, question, like, do you think we might be delayed? Are you sure that this is the date that we're going to deliver on? If not, how much should we put it back by? What kind of buffer should we give ourselves? This also ensures that your client respects your time and is making sure that they are ready to work with you as well. If they're unsure about any of this, then maybe delaying the start of your collaboration is the best option. Within this given time frame, I want to always offer unlimited revisions. Now, this might sound a little bit scary to some people, but for me, it gives peace of mind. It shows my commitment to the project first and foremost, because I'm not going to confidently commit to a project unless I know we can do a good job. And I'm also not going to give up until we get it right so that everybody is satisfied. So that's why I always offer unlimited revisions. And it's not like every asset is going to be 100 revisions. It's very unlikely that it's going to happen. So it's very little to offer in the long-term grand scale of a project, and it offers a lot of peace of mind. Cool. Right. So this leads me to one of the most important things, which is making sure we get something up front. This percentage varies. It depends on the fee or the size of the project. Like for bigger projects, sometimes this could be 30% instead of 50%. Whatever is comfortable for you, basically. And this really is non-negotiable for me and for Double Jump Audio, because if you're freelance, if you're basically on your own, right? You have to safeguard yourself. There's no redundancy pay if the project goes sideways or loses funding. So we have to protect ourselves. If a client is serious about working with you, then an upfront payment is never an issue. Cool. So a couple really quick but important financial considerations whilst building a career. 6 to 12 months of cash savings, of living expenses, makes you very, very confident. You can again afford to hold out for a better opportunity, saying no to the bad ones. Of course, this amount probably takes a lot of time to build up. So at the start, I just recommend putting aside 10 to 20% of whatever you make a month aside to build up this buffer. But again, having some sort of cash savings like this makes you so confident behind every career decision you make. So we always make sure we're making a decision that's going to help us progress, not go backwards. For me, this also means having a Double Jump Audio buffer. So again, for each project, we agree to put away between 5 and 10% of the fee for unforeseen expenses. This might go towards paying for event traveling or equipment, or simply saving it for a rainy day. Again, this adds a lot of confidence to what we do, knowing that we have this behind us. Putting aside money for tax, again, sounds obvious, but figure out when you are due to pay your taxes in your country and make sure you've planned for it. Don't get caught out. Again, you are your own safeguard. This is harder for freelancers who are running their own business because we might have inconsistent incomes, right? One month we might have $1,000 coming in or 1,000 euros, and the next month it might be 10,000, right? It goes really up and down. For that reason, again, using a percentage is a great way of putting this money aside. If you want to use the spreadsheet that I use to calculate this for myself, I will share a QR code to my newsletter at the end of this talk where you can get a link to it. Cool. Okay, so I want to end quickly by summarizing what we've learnt and make a few comments on how this will all help to build a sustainable long-term career. Treat yourself like a business. I've said it several times because you are one, right? Be professional right from the start, even as a student. Building sustainability is all about making sure you don't neglect the business side of things. At the start, you should consider networking and skill practice as a 50-50% split, right? 50% of your time networking, the other 50 practicing your skills. It doesn't matter how good you are if you don't talk to people. And talking to people helps us get better at our skills, because everybody we meet shares another useful tip or piece of information that points us towards a direction that's suited for us, okay? Casting a wide net. What I mean by that is that I've outlined a bunch of different places to go out and make these genuine connections with people, right? Making them in a genuine way. Remember, no cold messaging. So make sure you try all of them, because you don't know where your first success story is going to happen. So let's find that first success story and then repeat it. I have lots of friends, for instance, who find most of their opportunities from game jams, or that's how they got their site. Whereas I've had more luck finding them at going to events and talking at them, just like this, right? So we don't know what it is, so let's try everything. I still attend game jams for that reason, and let's see what works for us, basically. Building all of this into a habit as well is very important as well. It's I spend an hour networking online every morning, for instance. And I'm always asking, like, where am I showing up this week, next month, this year? Have I shared something online recently that shows my dedication to the industry? Because that's really all what this is all for, to convince people we're not going to change our minds next month and decide to do something different, right? So if we do all of this, clients and studios will trust us with money, with work, and with a job. The final most important thing, please start before you think you're ready. Like I said, we're not ever waiting to reach a certain level. So a common thing I hear from students is, well, I'm going to finish my degree, get really good at sound design, and then I'll start networking. We will always be improving. We will always be learning, right? So instead, we have to change our mentality a little bit. We are finding opportunities that suit our current skill set and level. That's it, which means you can start before you've even finished studying. Also, these new connections in the industry and that sense of trust, like we've talked about, takes time to build up. So start now. Start as soon as possible. Finally, here is a QR code to my newsletter, which includes the finances spreadsheet that I mentioned. It includes a free video course with a bunch of useful information. And I send out weekly newsletter emails with tips and tactics, stuff that I know beginners will find very useful. So great. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was useful for you. Please feel free to reach out to me on Airwiggles, and I hope to see you at Nordic Games.